One of the joys for me being in a church that celebrates a liturgical calendar is that we have the opportunity to be able to examine the lives of people that the church has held up, because they show us things about God. That's really why, in essence, they're set aside in the way they are. And that's very true for this child who, in the 19th century, went into a convent at the age of 15 and died of tuberculosis 9 years later. So in the fact of the very brief span of life, from a small village, a small convent, Carmelite, she literally has affected the nation of France and beyond. She was precocious. She was known for her fierce intelligence. If you look at photographs of her, which of course we have from that, she's steely-eyed. I mean, you can tell her look is penetrating, even if she's just a child. And she would stand up for herself. One time a priest was getting after her about the fact that she kept falling asleep in church, and just quick as a wink, she looked at him and she said, "Parents accept their children, whether they are awake or whether they are asleep." You know, bang! I mean, you think, wow, from a little girl. And she, more and more through her life, very thick, strict, singular Catholic education became, and even as a young girl, deeply, deeply devoted to prayer. And eventually was admitted, even though her father wept when she came to him and said, "I want to be a nun." Here's the things that, for me, mark her. One of the things is that within this brief span of life, she wrote her own story and the Diary of a Soul. And in that, she talked about what she described as the little way. And what she meant by that was, if you know that you are in fact loved and held by God, if you're secure in the fact that He cares for you and will never forsake you, you can give your life to be able to serve and care for other people. And it doesn't have to be big and heroic. And she would even say, as a kind of joke, I leave the big things to big people. She's only about this tall. I'm not a big person. So she talked about acts of kindness, personal care to individuals. Although what actually happened was, over the course of her span of life, she was literally, not unlike some other famous women, was a counselor to priests and others through correspondence, literally all over Europe. The turning point for her, that in essence got her into this thing called the little way, was a kind of a profound experience that she had after she was in the convent. You see, in the midst of the education she had received, the whole focus was, be good, be perfect, and God will love you. That's what she was taught. And so, I thought about it when I read the psalm that was appointed for today about, happy are they whose way is blameless, who walk in the law of the Lord. Happy are those who observe His decrees, who seek Him with all their hearts, who never do anything wrong. It just keeps boring in on you, always walking in your ways. She'd say, that's right, and I can't do that. And therefore she lived under an extraordinary level of condemnation, what at the time was described as scruples. And she didn't know how to get past it. And then one point she hit a real crisis when a visiting priest came to preach, and he said in a very clear way, no one knows whether they deserve love or hate. And it struck her to the heart. Who am I? Do I deserve from God love? Or do I deserve from God hate? Not long after that, a Franciscan came through, also a preacher. And this is what she said. And I brought this to quote. She said, he began to speak, and his preaching on abandonment and mercy of heart confirmed her own intuitions. My soul was like a book which the priest read better than I did. He launched me full sail on the waves of confidence and love, which held such an attraction for me, but which up until that point I dared not venture. He told me that my faults did not offend God. And she knew at that moment that she'd been received, even with all of her scruples. And that's what gave her the boldness, way beyond her years or her education or her background, to be able to be an extraordinary force in the Catholic Church and beyond. That's what gave her the capacity, and this is why the gospel is quoted. Even though she felt like she had little, she knew that little was enough because she was giving all that she had. The same is true for us. You see, the more I know that in the midst of all of my own faults and brokenness, I've been wholly and completely received by God, that He accepts me, He cleanses me, He makes me, in essence, and it's His obligation to do so. He makes me acceptable in the sight of God. That's the source of confidence and boldness. Because, you see, if you don't have that, all you know is, well, is this going to be such a good day or not? I better keep my nose clean because maybe God won't like me today. And all that does is actually cause you to live not in a place of confidence, but in fear. And to live in fear means to live a very calculated existence. Abandonment is the fruit of confidence in God, not in one's abilities, but confidence in God. And that was the turning point for Therese. That's the lesson for today. You all are coming and making a commitment to be a follower of Jesus literally for the rest of your life. This is a sea change, a life commitment, and it's incredibly important. But you enter it, I hope, with the confidence that you're saying, as we will say, I will, important phrase, with God's help. And you trust that God will give you, as we do, what we need to be able to serve in a way that even though it only begins to look like faithfulness in the eyes of God, just like taking a child who's learning how to walk, He takes us by the hand, encourages us, and continues to allow us to come forward, even if it is with halting steps. So come. Come and say yes, knowing that He has received, knowing that He has accepted, knowing that He has claimed you as His own, and that He will never let you go. Amen.